Today we are ranking metalcore albums from the year 2000, starting with Darkest Hour with the Mark of Judas. Now I gotta say that this Washington DC band's debut album has held up extremely well over the years and continues to be among my favorites. So many great songs right from the jump with The Soul of the Savior, amazing riffs, killer opener that straddles the line between metalcore and mellow death, already earning the moniker of American Gothenburg. Other great songs, A Blessing and a Tragedy, Eclipse, The Legacy, and I also love the little acoustic interludes that are scattered throughout. This one is going up to perfection. Next up is Society's Finest with The Journey So Far. The debut album from this Texas band featuring vocalist Josh Ashworth, who briefly toured as a part of Zao. He definitely has a very similar vocal style, but less interesting, and same goes for the instrumentation. Really boring album for me. Songs just feel kind of dull and repetitive. Even at just around 30 minutes altogether, this one feels like it drags on and on, so I put this one at okay. Then we have Born Under Saturn with Reflecting the Beautiful Design. Another band out of Connecticut, this being their first and final full length, although it's only about 22.5 minutes long. Super heavy mathcore infused stuff that's arguably the most abrasive record here, kind of a cross between Converge, the Dillinger Escape Plan, and the Number 12 Looks Like You. Some pretty wild bass on Humanize as well, awesome stuff that I wasn't previously aware of, so this was a gem for me on this list. Fantastic. And we have Shadows Fall with Of One Blood. A slight step up from the last one with improvements in songwriting and production, as well as Brian Fair stepping in on vocals, but still pretty rough around the edges though. The vocals, especially on the clean side, just aren't that great, and in comparison to some of the other albums here, the production feels very amateurish. A few songs like Revel in My Loss get my foot tapping, and the guitar work is pretty solid across the board though, so I'm gonna put this one at good tier. And we have Drowningman with Rock and Roll Killing Machine. So imagine a band that wanted to be Dead Guy, but also wanted to be Sunny Day Real Estate, and that's what this Vermont band is kind of in a nutshell. And on this second album, it very much feels like those things are alternating back and forth. One second it's noisy mathcore, the next it's pure emo. I'm not always in love with it, but it's definitely kind of one of a kind on here. I'm going to put it at great tier. Then we have Snapcase with Design for Automotion. Following up the excellent progression through Unlearning with more of that Helmet meets Jane's Addiction channeled through hardcore energy. Headbanging for days with this one, and with more of that super crisp production. Every song is a blast, and Are You Tuned In and Ambition Now also have some great Quicksand vibes. Love how they infuse the different influences in the guitars. One could argue whether this is like a true metalcore release, but whatever you call it, I think it's top-notch. It's going to perfection. Then we have Red Roses for a Blue Lady with the return to Melancholy. The only album from this Florida band, and I believe one that a fan actually recommended to me months back. And I dig it enough with its kind of deluge of emotion presentation, big tidal waves of just the melancholy that the title promises. I do find that the production and constantly squelchy quality of the vocals keeps me a little bit at arm's length, and I don't find the songs as memorable as some of the other choices here. The clean vocals on the acoustic parts aren't great either, but definitely some jams though, like SR 241. I'm going to put this one at good tier. And as always, this is just my opinion, so please do share your own rankings. Where do you agree, where do you disagree, down in the comments. Also hit the like button if you're enjoying the video so far. Both of those things help me out in the algorithm. But next up we have Sentence with Dominion on Evil. The debut album from this Italian band with a bit of crossover thrash energy in their riffs. Some really great production around the drums on this one too. The snare has a real punch to it. Another one with some very dark and bleak atmosphere. A little samey throughout, but it breaks things up here and there. I'm going to put it up at great tier. We also have This Day Forward with the transient effects of light on water. The second album from this Philadelphia band that kind of alternates between comparisons to that first Hopesfall album from the previous list in both its raw and melodic qualities, as well as converge when things get really intense. Some of the harsh vocals even elevate to that dying bird sound at times. Tons of both anger and sorrow oozing out of these recordings, especially on tracks like Writing in Cursive. The occasional clean vocals that kind of adds to the charm. So I'm gonna put this one at fantastic. We also have Burn It Down with Let the Dead Bury the Dead. The debut from this Indiana band, more killer drumming, and it starts out pretty fast with some typical sounding metalcore vibes, but then it moves into the slower, groovier stuff like Bones Are Made for Breaking. These shifts give the album this kind of wonky, almost psychedelic feel at times, which is interesting, but I find the execution a little hit and miss with tracks like But the Past Ain't Through With Us going a bit off the rails vocally, and A Ghost Untied just gets kind of annoying as it drags on through its nearly 10-minute runtime. The title track also sounds kind of like a Fugazi song to me, and there's a cover of Paint It Black. Lots of unique, interesting stuff here and some really great moments, but I don't feel like it fully comes together, at least for me. So I'm going to put this one at good. We also have Skycamefalling with 1021. The sole full-length album from this New York band, the album named for the date that the vocalist ended a relationship. And if you weren't there for this, a lot of these records were inspired by like breakups and relationships in general.
Which was the style at the time.
Plenty of post-hardcore influences on this one, utilizing more spoken word and negative space on great tracks like the head bob-inducing The Nothing. Also dig the ups and downs of Porcelain Heart Promises. Always happy to see a Twin Peaks reference too with the track Laura Palmer.
You wanna know who killed Laura? You did!
Generally just a very introspective sounding album, and frankly I can relate to thinking back on a time where a long-term relationship had ended and I was left wondering what was next. So very strong, maybe a little overlong, but great with potential to rise, as I hadn't listened to this one as much actually. I am going to put this at great tier. Then we have Underoath with Cries of the Past. Slight step up from the first album. The songs are a little bit more concise, but not always. It does have their longest song to date in the 11-minute and 24-second And I Dreamt of You. It's also the first with Christopher Dudley, incorporating keyboard effects that some actually compared to like Cradle of Filth, which I sort of hear, but it's definitely a bit of a stretch. So decent atmosphere. I do like some of the acoustic parts, and as much as I love this band though, I'm not a big fan of these first two records. I'm going to put this one at okay tier. Then we have Walls of Jericho with The Bound Feed the Gagged. Absolute ripper of a debut from this Detroit band, super heavy beatdown riffs and Candace tearing it up on vocals, paving the way for now the much more common trend of female vocalists in metalcore when she was basically in a time where she had no peers. Absolutely killing it on all these tracks, and it's a lean and mean 22 minutes. I also dig that they go full hardcore on Changing Times. This one is going to perfection. Of course, we have Killswitch Engage with Killswitch Engage. Now, despite feeling almost like a demo, I really do enjoy this album, and I own a physical copy of the old pressing from Ferret Music. Right here, actually. Can you believe I got this at Best Buy? That was the time. Anyways, you've got tracks that later ended up on Alive or Just Breathing in kind of a rougher form like Temple from Within and Vita Infra, as well as Irreversible, which wound up on The End of Heartache. It's a really great starting point for a very important metalcore band, kind of an underrated release, and a rare example of a group from this era having a debut that I still go back to regularly. In fact, the Wikipedia states that it was one of the first successful albums in metalcore. Metal Hammer named it in their top 20 metal albums of 2000. I'm putting it at fantastic. It's like just shy of perfection for me. Then we have Undying with The Whispered Lies of Angels. Another band with just 2 albums, this one out of North Carolina. Notably, prior to this record, both Tommy Giles Rogers and Paul Wagner of Between the Buried and Me were members, with Tommy playing drums. Some just really solid classic-era metalcore here with that melodic death metal influence to the guitars. Also, some of those spoken word interjections that I found so cool as a kid, but definitely feel a bit dated now. Some standouts here like Fallen Grace, Born Again, and A Desert in the Heart. Some really great piano, too. I'm going to put this one at great tier. Then we have 100 Demons Within the Eyes of the Lord. The first also of just 2 albums from this Connecticut band, definitely following a bit more in the vein of Hatebreed and Integrity, but I wouldn't say this is anywhere near as impactful as either. Songs feel pretty run-of-the-mill and the production lacks the punch that they need. I'll bet they sound better live. Nothing to write home about, but more enjoyable than some here. It has a few bangers too, like How Can I Regret? Putting this at good tier. And we have A Life Once Lost, with Open Your Mouth for the Speechless in Case of Those Appointed to Die. The debut album from this Pennsylvania band, and coming in hot with the chaos of Jones Said Please. Lots of alternations between calm before the storm, quiet moments, and eruptions of mathy riffs and drums, vicious snarls and abrasive panic chords. The ironically titled Gentle and Elegant may be one of my favorites here. A little messy in terms of overall execution at times, but when it rips, goddamn, does this thing rip. I put it fantastic. Then there's 18 Visions with Until the Ink Runs Out. Now, despite working hard to hit as many albums as I could in the 90s list, which, by the way, you should definitely check out if you missed it, I managed to miss the debut from this Orange County band, but regardless, here we are with their sophomore release, which they actually just re-recorded for its 25th anniversary this year. Man, do I feel old. Giving me some similar vibes at times as Bless the Martyr and Kiss the Child that, God willing, we will get to, given your support in terms of how these videos do, but not nearly as technical or memorable, in my opinion. Muddy production, too. Honestly, I never loved these guys or their fashion core aesthetic, and while solid enough, I find this one incredibly overrated. So that may be a really hot take, really interested to see what people say in the comments about that, but just compared to a lot of these other albums, I just think it's good. I could probably put it like next to Shadows Fall.
I warned you there'd be mutiny.
And we have Heaven Shall Burn with Asunder. Strong debut from this German metalcore band, who also have a split this same year with countryman Caliban. I didn't include it because I'm sticking to full lengths. Anyways, focusing on harsh vocals and more of those Melodeath influenced riffs, they even have a cover of Bolt Thrower's The Fourth Crusade. Very headbangable, but for me also a little long-winded. I think that the vocals become especially kind of grating over the runtime and their lack of variation, and the songwriting isn't really complex enough to carry it either, but still, solid entry, all said and done. I put it at great tier. Probably about there. And we have Reprisal with Boundless Human Stupidity. The second album from this now defunct Italian metalcore project, and man, do they have some hooks on this record. Death Fortress has a seriously hype metalcoreized Slayer riff, and another banger one on Bleeding Ensign, and some downright death metal vocals on The Shadow of Mankind. Major sign of the times with the Matrix sample too. Not top for me, but it makes the higher tiers for sure. It's going to fantastic. Then we have Statecraft with To Celebrate the Forlorn Seasons. The only full length from this Japanese band, formed in 1995, and while there are some solid riffs here that at times even sound like rough drafts of ideas later used by As I Lay Dying and Avenged Sevenfold, rough is the optimal word here. I don't like the guitar tone or the production, and frankly the vocals are kind of shitty. I think they kind of suck. I'm sorry. The sparkly synths, though, are a cool addition, but it's just not enough to elevate what feels like an otherwise kind of half-baked experience. There's promise here, but sadly we never really got to see it blossom beyond this, but I'm going to put this at okay. Before we get to my last album, we've got some honorable mentions here, like Cave In with Jupiter. We covered their debut on the 90s list, but they make a hard left turn here into just straight up rock with no remnants of their heavier sound. Good album, but honestly for them in this style, I prefer Heavy Pendulum. Also, Raised Fist with Ignoring the Guidelines came up, but ultimately I feel like that's just straight up hardcore. Then there's Earth Crisis with Slither. They went new metal.
Look how they massacred my boy.
And Leech Milk with Starvation of Locusts, which was considered more sludge, though that album has plenty of stylistic crossover too, I would say. But rounding things off, we have Living Sacrifice with The Hammering Process. So I'm kind of cheating and sneaking this in as it's more of like a groove metal album, but I use any excuse I can to talk about it, and most of the people I knew who listened to this stuff back in the day were metalcore fans. Regardless, what an incredible record with some of the best drumming on this list, with Matthew Putnam absolutely killing it. Pummeling riffs, dark atmosphere, harsh vocals, it's all there and performed to perfection. Flatline is another one of my all-time favorite openers from any album with those tribal sounding drums and that start-stop riff. Then there's Bloodwork and Not My Own. I challenge you to listen to this thing without banging your head and screaming along. I think it could be a really great like gateway record too to the like never metalcore people who do still enjoy stuff from like groove metal. So I'm putting this one at perfection. Y'all check out this video in case you missed my ranking of 90s metalcore albums from 1995 to 1999, and check out this playlist for some metalcore rankings of discographies of these bands. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.